Don't you just love the creative process? The ability to take something that's comes from somewhere inside of you and express it. And that can be in a million ways. I do love that creative process, and I love the works of art that are produced from that. There was a work of art that I want to just share with you a little bit to start with. A work of art that is based on the inspiration of a dream and Shakespeare. Anybody got it yet? Well, it's something we've already heard this morning. Paul McCartney wrote the song Let It Be. And the backstory on that is that at a time when he was particularly troubled, he had a dream. In a restless sleep, he saw his mother coming to him, and his mother told him, "Everything will be all right. Let it be." That reminded him of his love for Shakespeare as a student. And his love led him to Hamlet, of course. And the words in Hamlet, let it be. So that's the backstory. What happened then was that Paul wrote the song inspired by his life and his experience, and got ready to record it with the Beatles, but it was a bit of a troubling time for the Beatles. And somebody else produced the song and released it first. Anybody know? Who was the first one to release Aretha? Anybody know online? Oh, I just told you, Aretha. It was Aretha Franklin. Paul and Aretha had a connection, and so he allowed her to release the song prior to the Beatles doing that. And remember some of the words that we saw or sang. I just love some of these nuggets in here that are beautiful. When I find myself in times of trouble, in my hour of darkness, when all the broken-hearted people living in the world agree there will be an answer. What a dream there. And though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me. There will be no sorrow. Let it be. So you've heard it enough times. The theme for today and the message is let it be. I've put together my thoughts into a core message that I got from this consideration. And here it is. But if you don't remember anything else, remember this one. Whatever the situation, to be free and to be and to flourish, we must let it be. Let me say that again. Whatever the situation, in order to be free and to flourish, we must let it be. So I'd like to consider a couple of things that you'll see popping up. I'm going to kind of throw a lot at you this morning, so hang in there. If you don't get everything, just take what you really get. Take it to heart. We'll talk about contrasting values. We'll talk about reconciling polarities. And we'll talk about mystery and certainty. But let me go to contrasting values, and particularly the one that we want to focus on today. And that is the value on one hand of acceptance, and on the other hand of action. Acceptance and action. Don't know if you're familiar with the work of Byron Katie, but she has a book called Loving What Is. Here's what she says, and this is a good place to start with regard to acceptance. And as you can guess, my emphasis today is going to be on that acceptance. Here's what Byron Katie had to say. Since the beginning of time, people have been trying to change the world so that they can be happy. This hasn't ever worked. Acceptance, you can see how crucial that is. Action, yeah, it's crucial, and we'll get to how we can reconcile those polarities. There's also a scripture in the Hebrew scriptures that I like, because it gives us an underpinning for all of what we're considering this morning. It comes from the story of Samuel. It goes like this, and I've paraphrased just a little bit. The divine does not see as mortals see. They look on the outward appearance, but divinity sees the heart of the matter. It's so easy to forget what resonates strongly with me, and I hope with you as well, that everything does work together for good. The appearances on the outside are a bit of an illusion sometimes. It certainly can take our vision and put it elsewhere, and we don't get to that underneath truth that's there, to the heart of the matter. We're going to consider that as we talk about acceptance this morning. Then another source that I ran into as I prepared this talk is by a Buddhist psychotherapist. I don't know if those two things go together, but it sounds pretty good to me. And her name is Rachel Gordon. And here's what she said from a Buddhist perspective. So I want you to see, again, this other facet of it. Acceptance in Buddhist terms refers to our ability to stay present. When life presents us with something the ego finds painful and not pleasurable, the mind's tendency is to resist, avoid, change, or generally push against. If we don't like feeling depressed, rather than accepting that this is what's here, we engage in various strategies to try and change our feelings. Ironically, resisting a thought or feeling only makes it worse. So in order to experience and potentially change anything, we are instructed to first say yes, lean in, and simply let go of the effort and energy we invest in resisting. Say yes and lean in. Pretty hard to do, because there's a lot of situations around us that kind of make us want to resist, make us want to get on the I'm going to fix this train. There's another story that I love, and you may have heard it before. It's about a Taoist farmer. Farmer who had one small plot of land and one horse to eke out a meager existence. One day, the farmer went out and the horse was gone. The horse had run away. And his neighbors came around him and consoled him and said, "Oh, what bad luck you've had. Your horse has run away." The farmer's response was simple. Maybe. The next day, the horse returned and brought with it 3 wild horses. And now the farmer had 4. And the neighbors gathered around him and said, "What great fortune you have had." And he said, "You got it, what?" Maybe. Maybe, absolutely. The following day, his son went out and took one of those wild horses and said, "I'm going to break this horse, I'm going to ride this horse." And he fell and broke his leg. And the farmer responded to his neighbors, who said, "Oh, what misfortune." Maybe. Yet the next day, the farmer saw men coming toward him, obviously important men, and they were from the emperor, and they were drafting young men to serve in the military. And of course, the son with the broken leg could not be drafted because of his injury. And the neighbors gathered around and began to say, let's have a celebration. What a great thing this is. And he says, maybe. And you could take that story and add on layer after layer. But you get the point. Now, the Taoist farmer did not say, I'm gonna let go and be at ease with this because it's gonna give me the outcome I want. No. Taoist farmer just knew from the wisdom of his heart that letting it be was the path to freedom, the path to eventual flourishing. So you see these two polarities, acceptance on one side, action on the other. The tendency for me is to run over and act. I can fix this. I got a great strategy. And so I tend to move in that. I suspect some of you may be like me. You go first for the strategy. And the counsel of the sages of the ages. Oh, I like that phrase. Sages of the ages is let it be. So I have two other polarities that I want to share with you that are alike in many ways. The second one is beingness on one hand and doingness on the other. Beingness and doingness. So you all know that in Unity, we speak about our existence, our reality, our true identity. We talk about being a spiritual being having a physical experience. Instead of physical being having a spiritual experience, we reverse that. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So the essential us is not physical, it's not body, it's spirit. I trust that you're at a place where you can feel the resonation of that for yourself. I am spirit. I am spirit. And so in that beingness, we spend a little bit more time in quiet, in prayer, in contemplation, reflection, in walking in nature, than we do rushing out to fix either our ills, our sense of dis-ease, or that of somebody else. So there we have it. Beingness and doingness. Spirit and body, or spirit and physicality. Two contrasting values. And of course, this morning, we're focusing on these over here, that beingness, along with the awareness that we were talking about earlier when we accept. Then one further thing that we have that I like, another polarity that I'd like to speak of is the polarity of inner and outer. Seemingly opposite, but they are contrasting values which have their great benefit in the reconciliation of the two, inner and outer. Of course, as I spoke a minute ago, that time that we spend in the inner life is important and sometimes often neglected because we get so involved in what we're doing out here, the cause that we're committed to, the change that we want to make in our community, in our family, in our nation. We're committed to that, but we bypass just a little bit the inner thing, knowing that, as we often say in Unity, that everything begins in consciousness on the inside. It's not out there someplace, it's on the inside. So we do that work in consciousness. It's different for each one of you. Each one of you has a special road to follow. You have a unique identity, but yet you're a part of that oneness that we are. And so that time in the inner world, in the inner life, is critical. It's also the place where we connect with divinity, where we know that we are divine. We are not only physical, we are not only human, we are divine. We are fully human, but also fully divine. So that inner life is the place where we know that, where when we give our thought to that, where we incorporate it into our being, where it becomes part of our life instead of just a concept. Remember our core message, what we said. Whatever the situation, and all of these polarities relate to this, in order to be free and to flourish, we have to let it be. So if you notice these polarities that I spoke about, they kind of fall into two categories. On this side, they're kind of hard to grab a hold of. On this side, they're firm, and I can feel it. I can make it. I know what it is. They fall into the category of mystery and certainty. Columnist in our local newspaper, The Roundup, wrote a column not long ago and talked about certainty and how somebody has to be certain. Well, I suggest that we won't go very far on our spiritual journey if we neglect mystery. So I challenge us to that. I'd like to try to make some sense out of this and use and Ed, if you can pass out the handouts that I have here, and if you can put up that slide, Tom, we'll do it. I've created, not original to me, Dr. Barry Johnson has done some wonderful fundamental work with regard to polarities and polarity reconciliation. And this is a polarity map. And I've labeled it because this is our first polarity that we discussed as acceptance polarity map, an acceptance polarity map. I hope I remember it, Ed. You don't have to give me one. Thank you. So notice this map. I'm going to turn a little bit and look at it so I can describe it to you. You notice acceptance on the left. And you who are online see that as well. I might just mention, if you want to take this home with you as a handout, if you're able to print your screen, you can take that home right away. If you can't do that and you don't have that figured out, email me or put a message on our website and say, I want that polarity map, and we'll get it to you. Acceptance on the left, and you notice the big infinity signal, a symbol without end that keeps going. And on the right side is action. These are the two polarities. And though they are contrasting, if we take one of those polarities and emphasize it to the exclusion of the others, we lose the whole thing. So let's start. You see on the top, hopeful, or we might say positive, and on the bottom, fearful, or we might say negative. Let's start here on the action side. And you see the little arrows. I'm not very good at making graphics, but I hope this will serve. At the bottom of this in action, maybe we've burned ourselves out. Maybe we've tried something over and over again. We've just knocked our head against a brick wall. And so action has its very negative and inevitably fearful side. But as we move through that back to that balance point at the nexus of the two, we move into the hopeful side, the positive side of acceptance. And that's where we're really looking to go today, into that acceptance and that ability to let it be. And then, now I know you'd never do this, but if you were to stay too long in that acceptance thing, you'd come down and you would find that you're on the underside, the fearful side of acceptance. You no longer look to be participant in action. We're not emphasizing this today, but I want you to get the flow of it. We no longer look to action, we just kind of accept. It's like, what the heck? I can't do anything about it. And so we stay there in that negative place until we're able to rise through that and move to action, wherein we can, through creative means, put together action items that we can work with. And then we're back, completing the cycle. So you got that. Action has a negative point. You rise to the acceptance, on the acceptance of, on the polarity of acceptance. It's just very hopeful and positive. But if we stay there too long, we end up being down again. But we'll complete this cycle endless times during our life. So I suggest that today, because our theme is let it be, there may be some of you that have got that acceptance thing all figured out. I hope you have. But I suspect that a lot of you have some work to do there. I know I do. As we are able to move through this again and again, we get to that place of freedom. We get to that place where we can flourish because we're able to let it be. Another time we'll talk about the action. Today, we're talking about let it be. You remember again, let's go back to where we started. The song Let It Be by Paul McCartney. It uses the phrase speaking words of wisdom, because it's talking about the dream. I've changed it a little bit, hearing words of wisdom. Of course, that comes in the inner life. Remember too that there is still a light that shines on me. There's hopefulness, there's positivity, there's a future, there's a better tomorrow. And then that joy that Donna spoke about in the daily word. I wake up to the sound of music. Let it be. So that's what I hope you'll take with you this morning. And I close with the words of the poet Edna St. Vincent Millay. Some words that we use often here at Unity of Payson. I guess they're not original to us. And this is what she says in the poem. So it is, and so it will be, or so it has been, time out of mind, and so it is.